Looks like you're headed for the great beyond tomorrow, just as planned. I froze when I heard a woman's laugh and voice I didn't recognize. The voice was coming from my husband Nicholas's phone. Right now, he's in the shower. Our 4-year-old daughter Margaret happened to be nearby when his phone rang. She touched it and, not knowing any better, turned on the speaker. The woman, assuming my husband had picked up, kept talking. With this, we'll get the insurance money, and finally we can be a real couple. I got a bad feeling, a real sense of dread. That's when I discovered the terrible secret plan my husband had been hiding. My name is Sophie. I'm 32 and work in an office. I've been married to Nicholas for 5 years, who is 3 years older than me, and a company employee. Together with Margaret, we are a family of 3. Nicholas is a doting father. Margaret adores him and always clings to him. Every time I saw this, it filled me with joy. I always wanted to cherish the time spent as a family, so I'd adjust my work schedule to coincide with Nicholas's days off. We'd go shopping, visit the aquarium, or go to the zoo. Margaret was looking forward to those days as well. However, 3 months ago, things changed. You don't need to match your days off with me anymore. Work's gotten busy. What? But Margaret looks forward to spending time with you. It can be helped. Nicholas yelled at me and left the house without saying another word. He didn't come back that day. Seeing this sudden change in his normally calm demeanor puzzled me. After that day, he started coming home late due to overtime, and the number of sudden business trips increased. And whenever he came back from those trips, his wedding ring was conspicuously missing. For some reason, he also seemed eager to take a shower right away. One day, Nicholas says to me, "How about we take a day off next week and spend some time together? Just the 2 of us." That's unusual, I thought, but it turns out I'm also off work that day. Come to think of it, since Margaret was born, Nicholas and I haven't had any alone time. He tells me he's already arranged for Margaret to stay at my in-laws' house, so I happily agree. We could go for a drive to the beach, he suggests, and I can't help but look forward to that day. Then, the day before our date comes around, for some reason Nicholas takes a shower as soon as he gets home. Normally, he takes his phone with him everywhere, even to the bathroom. But today, he left it on the table. While I'm cooking, his phone starts to ring. As I'm drying my hands, Margaret picks up the phone and puts it on speaker. Everything's set for tomorrow. He'll be out of the picture. A mysterious woman's voice fills the air. Stunned by her words, I keep listening. She seems to think Nicholas picked up and continues talking. With this, the insurance money will be ours, and finally we can...
Who's that, Auntie? A friend of Dad's?
Hearing Margaret's voice, the woman hurriedly hangs up. Margaret tilts her head.
What was that? Maybe it's a friend of Dad's. Let's tell him.
Okay. Margaret runs off towards the bathroom with a smile. I guess she wants to tell her dad as soon as possible. In the meantime, his phone is left on the table. Just as I'm about to snoop through it, I hear the bathroom door open and quickly put the phone back in its place. Margaret informs a freshly showered Nicholas,
Dad, your friend called.
Suddenly, Nicholas rushes into the living room, his body still wet. Did you answer my phone without asking? No, Margaret picked up, but I didn't listen. I see. His stern face relaxes suddenly. His brow smooths. Is he cheating? And what was that about? Out of the picture. That night, unable to shake my suspicions, I wait until Margaret and Nicholas are asleep. Then I check his phone again. The caller ID reads Eric. There are several calls from this Eric, but the voice was unmistakably a woman's. When I open WhatsApp, there's frequent communication with a woman named Caroline. Reading the content, it's clear that Eric is probably a cover, and it's really Caroline. In the messages I found on his phone, there were details about the sinister plan the woman had just mentioned. I was so shocked. I caught my breath. Who is this woman? I can't believe it. Fuming, I clenched my trembling hands tightly. Further investigation of his phone gallery revealed multiple selfies of Caroline cozying up to Nicholas. The woman in these pictures, attached to Nicholas like glue, looked familiar. Is this woman? Could it be? When I checked my work computer, it turns out she was someone I knew. So that's how it is. After transferring all the evidence to my computer, I found some important documents in Nicholas's carry-on bag. If you're up for this, be prepared. I've got plenty to corner you both. I then made a call to someone. I didn't sleep a wink that night, and morning eventually came. As I prepared breakfast, Nicholas, unusually up early and in high spirits, said, "Great weather for a drive, huh?" "Sure is," I replied with a fake smile, but he didn't seem to notice my mood. "All right, let's get moving." After dropping Margaret off at my in-laws' house, Nicholas started driving. Today, Nicholas was unusually chatty, rambling on about trivial matters. As I played along, my phone rang about 30 minutes into the trip. "It's a call from your mom. Margaret seems to have a fever. We need to go back." "What? I mean, we asked Mom to watch her. She should handle it." "Mom says she has a fever close to 102 degrees Fahrenheit and wants to take her to the hospital. I have the medical insurance card, so we need to go back." "All right, fine." Nicholas reluctantly made a U-turn. When we arrived at my in-laws' house, Nicholas energetically opened the door to be greeted by a surprised-looking Sasha, my mother-in-law. "Mom, how's Margaret's fever?" "What are you talking about?" "You called Sophie's phone earlier, right?" "I did? I never made such a call." Confused, Nicholas and Sasha were at a loss for words, but Nicholas quickly turned to confront me. "Hey, what's going on?" Fully expecting this question, I flashed a big smile and told Nicholas, that was a lie to bring you back here." "What? But the phone rang, didn't it?" "That was just an alarm. I set the ringtone and the alarm tone to be the same to make you believe that a call had come in." Just then, we heard,
Daddy, Mommy!
And Margaret came running down the hall, hugging Nicholas around his legs. Nicholas glares at me, not even glancing at Margaret. "Explain yourself!" "Oh, just returning the favor for all the lies you've told so far." "You kidding me? Are you making a fool out of me?" Hearing Nicholas's angry shout, a surprised and crying Margaret hides behind me. Sasha, sensing the mood, takes Margaret's hand and says, "Let's read a book upstairs," leading her to the second floor. Standing alone in the entryway, Nicholas just stares at me in silence for a moment. That's when the doorbell rings. Opening the door to our surprise, it's Nicholas's affair partner, Caroline. "Caroline, what are you doing here?" Nicholas seems utterly flustered. "What do you mean? You invited me here to meet your friends and parents-in-law, didn't you?" "I did." "Look, here's the message you sent me." Caroline shows her WhatsApp screen to a puzzled Nicholas. "More importantly, why is your wife here?" Caroline presses while Nicholas stammers, lost for words. "I was the one who invited Caroline, pretending to be you." Hearing my words, Both of them looked at me, eyes wide open.
What the heck are you thinking?
Because I'm not ready to move on to the next world just yet. Nicholas, you were planning something nefarious with me by the sea, weren't you?
How do you know about that?
Both Nicholas and Caroline seem unsettled, exchanging alarmed glances. They clearly never suspected their plot was exposed. When Margaret answered your phone, I overheard Caroline say, "The plan is on and my wife will be gone tomorrow." Anybody would find that strange upon hearing it. I moved to the living room, sit across the table from the two, and slam printed copies of their WhatsApp conversations and photographs on the table. I have plenty of evidence.
How did you get this?
Nicholas and Caroline are stunned, staring at the undeniable evidence. Did you forget what I do for a living?
You worked some desk job at a company.
True, but it's a detective agency. These days, I'm doing more sleuthing than clerical work. At that, Nicholas and Caroline tremble in disbelief. And then I lay out the $300,000 life insurance policy under Nicholas's name in front of him. I can't believe my own husband was planning to trade my life for money.
That's a misunderstanding.
What misunderstanding? The entire plan is detailed in those WhatsApp messages.
Well, you see...
Nicholas scrambles for words, trying to make an excuse. I turned to the woman beside me, who was avoiding eye contact, and asked her a question. "So, are you pregnant?" "What?" Caroline's eyes darted around as she looked to Nicholas for support. To my surprise, he started defending her.
Hey, yes, she is. She's carrying a baby, so don't give her a hard time. That's not fair.
Nicholas walked over to Caroline and affectionately rubbed her belly, giving me a glare. "That's a lie." "What do you mean, a lie? I'm 5 months along." Caroline pointed to a sonogram picture on the table. "Look at this. This is proof." The date on that sonogram is 10 months old. If it was real, the baby would be born by now.
What? What do you mean?
Nicholas was watching the exchange between me and Caroline with a puzzled expression. The pregnancy is a lie. Also, did you know she's a scam artist? Nicholas looked shocked. Turns out, Caroline was a scam artist who targeted married men. Her scheme was always the same: pretend to be pregnant after dating for a while and then extort a large sum of money. I had been involved in a background check for Caroline through work and recognized her face. When I showed the investigative report to Nicholas, he was reading it, gasping.
You're kidding me!
"Nick, all of this is nonsense. Don't listen to her." A panicked Caroline clung to Nicholas, but he forcefully shook her off and sighed deeply.
I can trust Sophie because she's never lied to me. Compared to that, I can't believe you're not just lying, but you're also a scam artist.
"No, Nick, please believe me." Caroline sank to her knees, covering her face with her hands, and began to sob as if to gain sympathy. However, even Nicholas seemed to realize he could no longer trust Caroline. Out of the blue, he offered me a sincere apology.
Sorry. My bad. Let's start over.
I was utterly flabbergasted by Nicholas, who seemed to think an apology would fix everything. I then handed him the divorce papers I had prepared in advance. "We can't be a married couple anymore. You'll sign this, right?" In the divorce proceedings, I also demanded $30,000 in damages, $20,000 for property division, and $1,000 for monthly child support.
Please, don't say that. Reconsider.
It's too late for that.
The only person I love is you, Sophie.
Just as Nicholas was resisting, making all sorts of excuses and hesitating to sign, Margaret came downstairs and ran over him.
Dad, do you need help signing? Should Margaret write it for you?
Margaret smiled innocently at him. Unable to resist any longer, Nicholas signed the papers without a word.
Dad, I signed it well for you.
Margaret, who knew nothing of the situation, beamed happily. Sasha noticed the situation and invited Margaret to the park. Full of energy, Margaret said,
I'll be going now.
and left. I'll also demand $1.5 million from you in the divorce case, I told Caroline. She lost her temper, her face turning red. Why should I have to pay? I'll also be contacting the police about you. Pay for your crime. Caroline's face turned pale and she started to tremble. I can't be caught now. She dashed out of the living room towards the entrance. However, police were already waiting outside, and Caroline was immediately arrested. Let go of me! Caroline, whose appearance was far from her shrieks, thrashed about as she was restrained by the police. Nicholas, who had followed her to the entrance, looked drained when he saw what was happening. A police officer then tapped Nicholas on the shoulder and said,
It's time to go. No way! Why do I have to be arrested? Sophie, help me!
Nicholas resisted and struggled, but the burly police officers dragged him into the patrol car and drove off. About 15 minutes later, Sasha and Margaret returned home. Sasha had tears in her eyes and apologized to me, as if she had seen everything from a distance. Turns out, it was Sasha who called the police. When I found out about Nicholas's plan to ruin me with Caroline, I immediately confided in Sasha. Shocked, Sasha said, If that's true, it's my responsibility as a parent to report this to the police. And she agreed to help. That's why she had been keeping an eye on us while entertaining Margaret upstairs. I guess she took Margaret to the park because she couldn't bear to let her granddaughter see her father get arrested. I said, I'm sorry for causing such a commotion, and handed Sasha a handkerchief. The next day, I filed for divorce in court. Nicholas and Caroline ended up behind bars. Nicholas sold our home and used the money to pay alimony and child support. Sasha covered the remaining costs, saying, It's the least I could do. The plan was to make Nicholas pay her back once he's out of jail. As for the compensation claimed in the divorce case against Caroline, I plan on having her pay in full once she has served her time. Meanwhile, Margaret and I moved back to my parents' house. Margaret is doted on by my parents, who find her incredibly adorable. I am committed to protecting my sweet Margaret and pouring all my love into her from now on.